So I have worked both in the kind of corporate side as well as having my own business. I started in television, that's all I've ever known, that's all I've ever really done. I started at World News Tonight in New York with Peter Jennings, so then worked for Reuters Television briefly before switching over into sports entertainment at NBA Entertainment. And what I did there was worked on commercials, PSAs, public service announcements, videos, documentaries with the players, both in the NBA and the WNBA, once that I was there for the launch of that. So worked with all the greats that you can imagine during that period in the 90s, and have a lot of interesting stories offline. But it was a lot of fun and gained a lot of experience just in film and television and producing during that period. When my son was born, we decided to move from New York down to DC, where my husband is originally from. And with that move, I started looking at jobs at Discovery. That was one of them, as well as PBS, National Geographic, a lot of the companies that are down here. Through that process, I got offered a lot of freelance work. Not so much the staff positions I was looking for at the time, but a lot of freelance, because there just weren't a lot of what I was looking for, either staff-wise wasn't open or somebody already had it, that sort of thing. So I started freelancing, and after doing that for about a year, I thought, this is a pretty good gig. I like working like this, working for myself, but still working with some established companies, and it was pretty steady work, so that made it nice at the time. And so I did a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work still with, again, Discovery, National Geographic, TV One, BET, a lot of different broadcast, PBS, but when I started my own business a few years ago, I started one in 2007 with a partner, and then transitioned into my own company, Black Robin Media, in 2011. And along with some of the broadcast work that we do, we also do a lot of videos for nonprofits, local and national. We do work for museums, so I worked on a lot of films for the Sports Museum of America, for the Muhammad Ali Center, doing some stuff with the African American History Museum, some of the libraries, the Clinton Library, just a mix of different work, which has given me, I guess, a good insight into a lot of different aspects of not only the field of video and television from a technical perspective, but also just the world and culture and just a lot of different things of that nature. So sports, news, and entertainment, I would say, is really my background. And I've worked primarily on the creative side, the writing, the producing, the directing. But when I transitioned into owning my own business, it became evident that one of the biggest things that you need to do is, even if you're a creative, you really need to know budgets, contracts, the money side, that aspect of it. We often kind of get in our head and think, if you're in IT, maybe I'm just doing this piece of it, this creative. And if you're a business owner, you need to know both sides. You really do. Is really thinking about what is your passion, what is your dream that you would like to do. We just produced a show with Steve Harvey, who, and it was all about he was doing basically stand-up, but on his book, Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success. And one of the premises of his new book and his motivational speaking on that is really, truly taking that time to really think about what is your dream and your gift that you have. You guys, again, have an opportunity to really take a minute and not just, I don't know what all of your circumstances are, but to not just really have to jump immediately into, okay, what's a job that I can get right at this moment? And so you take that moment to really think about, what is it that I love? What is it that's maybe a hobby that's just a lot of fun? And explore trying to create a business from that and how you can do that. And again, networking is hugely important, but speaking to people who are in that industry, just having informationals with them, or interning with them, working, just doing an apprenticeship, getting some time with them to speak with them and see in ways that you can translate what you do, what you love, into a greater career. You guys have both talked about that, coming out of the military and making that transition, and what your skills were that you built up in the military or as military spouses, because I'm sure you know a lot about what goes on as well, you know, and how that translates into what you really want to do. There are so many ways, particularly in this day and age, where I think entrepreneurs have become so critical to our economy and just to survival, because the traditional model of jobs has changed so much, that it's also an opportunity to really think about what you like, what you love, and how to make a business out of it. Maybe you were more interested in the legal side, or you are a numbers person, but you should know also the creative side of that aspect as well. There's always both to any business, no matter what it is. There's the creative, there's the legal, the budgets, the numbers, and getting a sense of all of that really is critical if you're trying to start your own business in any way. I would also recommend trying to get a job, if possible, within a company, big or small, that does what it is that you want to do, even if it's just for a short period of time. If you don't have anything that you feel on your resume that is not going to, you know, be a automatic entree into a bigger company like Paul did going into Discovery, try to go work for a smaller company, just briefly. We tend, and I'm sure you would say the same thing as a small business owner, we tend to be more open to letting people come work on a project, even intern, something, so that you could have that, gain a little knowledge, gain a little experience. I was surprised at how much work there is in television and video production here in DC. I was shocked. You know, you think, you know, I do a lot of work in LA and New York and Chicago, and you think that that's it. And
DC's
when
government is not.
Well, exactly, and that's what everyone's like. Oh, you're going to be working with, you know, politicians, and you know. So that was not my thing, having come again from sports and entertainment primarily. But when I came here and I realized how much there was, you know, sometimes you can really be surprised. And so that part of the transition made it easier now. And even in my own industry, I know for myself and starting my own business in television and video and production, you know, you talked about digital work, because so much of the technology has changed so much, it allowed me to be able to start a company where we have our edit suites, and we're able to do everything in-house that at one time you had to do in a much bigger facility with, you know, machines that cost $100,000 a piece. You know, now we can do it for much cheaper and much easier. You can make a video on your, as you all know, on your own computer. You know, there's a lot that goes into it to make it professionally, but you can still do quite a good job, you know, with much less equipment, much less infrastructure than you needed at one time. And to your point, I think you could go almost anywhere now. DC has the opportunity of bringing together a lot of different cultures and a lot of different industries, which is huge in you know, helping, you know, you to be able to find people that can be either mentors or sponsors, or, you know, places where you could go and talk and meet, and that's wonderful. Have a couple of employees that are, you know, in the office every day, but if we're working on a TV show, well, you know, producing that in the studio and work, you know, being out, I might need 40 to 50 people, you know, in different aspects, in terms of the crew, in terms of wardrobe, makeup, whatever it is. But, you know, I don't need that on a daily basis, so it's both. We are one of those companies we like to say that we can be as big or as small as you need. But worked on a online show. It was a web streaming show, and it was almost like a press conference, and it was a full 20 minutes, and it was for the announcement of Kevin Durant's new shoe. It was for Nike, and it was the announcement of KD7, which was in August, and so we shot it with Ahmad Rashad, who I worked with at the NBA, and Kevin, and the head shoe designer for Nike, Leo Chang. The one benefit is that when you talked about discipline and translating that discipline, I would also maybe call it a strong work ethic, which is just as critical. That you know, is part of, I think, the process when you are a veteran, and what people like myself and other business owners look for. And whether you're starting your own business, period, you have to have that work ethic.